It's interesting where we are with the wide receiver position. Of course, Xavier Betts leaves the team and kind of leaves a hole there for somebody to step up. And for a lot of us, you kind of think at first, okay, freshman wide receivers, who's going to step up there? Matt Rule kind of addressed that. We'll revisit that here in his last media outing. The importance of the next few weeks for freshman wide receivers as they get ready for this game. And if you are looking forward to some of these freshman wide receivers, his answer might surprise you.
Yeah, I'm giving them all an opportunity to play. I don't know that we need any of the freshmen to play at wideout. We'd love to have them play if they're ready, but the older guys know how to play. That first game, the team we're playing, that's gonna be a grown man game. They play real football. If I told our older guys, you guys want to win, you better see a bunch of veteran players out there on special teams. You can't subcontract out winning to young players. Now, some young players will be ready, some won't. What you're hoping is that we're just going to give our guys chances to get reps and play. And if they're ready, they're ready. If they're not, they're not. Because otherwise, the freshmen, they'll start to put a ton of pressure on themselves, and they'll start, they can't sleep at night because they're so worried about making a mistake. And this is a game of mistakes, you know what I mean? So the older guys have figured that out. So if Malachi's ready, great. If not, he's going to be a great player here. He's an amazing young man with what things he's done and overcome in his life. If he's ready, great. If, Jalen Lloyd's ready, great. If Jeremiah or Jaden ready, great. But the older guys are the ones who will lead us through. And I think one or two of those guys will step up. I really do, and be ready. And maybe it's game 6. Maybe it's game 7. The new rule now, you can play 4 games plus the postseason. So hopefully these guys get to play five or so games and go from there.
So there you have it. You hear Matt Rule not necessarily thinking that they're going to have to lean on a whole lot of freshmen, saying if they're ready, that's great, but it's going to take kind of a veteran approach to beat this Minnesota team. I'm glad he's not at all taking them lightly. It's good to hear that sort of comment, but it just kind of makes you think what we're going to see out of the rotation for the wide receivers. I think, Marcus Washington, a little bit banged up. Is he going to be completely ready for that game?
Mm-hmm.
IGC certainly factors in Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, Joshua Fleeks, the veteran transfer from Baylor. That's why you brought him over to kind of have a veteran presence. And of course, Billy Kemp, who I think is going to be a mainstay for Nebraska's wide receiver unit. But that's 4 guys. You're going to need more than that. And so you kind of look at, if he says the freshmen are ready, you kind of start to look at some of the wideouts. Ty Hahn, one of those guys, maybe Alex Bullock. Both those guys have been kind of getting a little bit of attention from camp. You can look further down. Elliott Brown has got good praise at times in the past. Baron Miles Jr., we know there. So, I mean, there's an opportunity for some of those walk-on wide receivers. And I put a list together to make you feel a little bit better on that, because I know initially that makes you feel like, I don't know, but there's been some good walk-on wide receivers in the past.
I mean, every time we talk about the wide receiver room, we talk about depth, we immediately go from the seniors and the guys who have experience playing to the freshmen. We always skip over the middle, the juniors, the sophomores, the redshirt sophomores, the redshirt freshmen. We always skip over those guys, but those guys have also been here, even if they haven't gotten a lot of playing time or seen the field all that much. They've been here, or they've been in college for a decent amount of time. They know what it takes. They're also football players, some of them on scholarships, some of them walk-ons, but they're all, pretty solid athletes, or else they wouldn't be in a Division I program. So it's not all on the seniors and all on the freshmen. There are some guys that will be mixed in there that maybe we're not talking about just yet. But to me, like he said, you're going to want to see those older guys on special teams making a difference. And really the 3 that you mentioned, IGC, Joshua Fleeks, Billy Kemp, I feel like you're going to see them a lot on special teams, not just as return men either. I think they'll be, punt, kickoff teams as well.
And that was an emphasis, I think, that was kind of starting to take hold last year when Bill Busch took over the special teams. But certainly I hope you see with Matt Rule and staff, where as Frost has kind of put the developmental or walk-ons or guys out there, and they really never tried to make special teams much of a weapon. And that's the third phase of the game. That can be a game changer.
It was freshmen in one of their 4 games, or the 4 games that they played was just special teams. They wouldn't be on offense or defense. It was just, you're on the punt team. Oh, that's your 4 games. Now we're going to throw a different freshman in there. We're going to throw a walk-on in there. And and this isn't to take anything away from the freshmen or the walk-ons, but you could tell that it wasn't as good as it could have been, especially, as you said, after Bill Busch took over, and you could see, an actual semblance of special teams.
And again, it's not to say that there's not, like, I think ideally you want to mix on special teams, because there are guys that if they're not playing and can put all their energy towards special teams, like that can be their craft. They can really figure it out. I think Phelan Sanford is a good example of that. He's been one of Nebraska's better special teams players over the last couple of years, and
he worked his way into the defense.
He's starting to play a little bit in the defense too.
I mean, he started a couple games due to injuries.
Yeah.
So he was out there, and it's not like you could tell the opposing offense wasn't picking on him. He's still a tremendous athlete. So it works.
Yeah.
You go from special teams and work your way into offense, defense. Sometimes that's just a starting point, a jumping off point.
But there have been guys like if you are a freshman, that's how you can kind of make your way up, like we were just saying, like Phelan Sanford has. He did it kind of from the walk-on position, but I remember guys like Eric Martin, just a special teams demon, Ricky Thenarsi, both really good special teams players.
Eric Martin killed a guy.
Eric Martin almost did kill a guy. But then there's other guys in the past that have kind of just been that. There's not a whole lot more to the story as far as eventually making it over to the defensive side or the offensive side. They've just been special teams guys. And so I think you need a good mix of that. But as far as walk-on wide receivers, if they play in the rotation, I think they will. We might see a few balls caught from walk-on wide receivers. Let's test your knowledge. We're going to go all the way back to the mid 2000s.
This isn't going to be good, and you know it.
So this is walk-on wide receiver trivia. I'm not going to ask you names.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you names. I'm going to tell you numbers, and then you tell me if they could beat the previous guy. So we're going to go in order. It won't
Thank
be too
goodness.
bad.
Oh, goodness. I was scared I was going to have to name people, and I was like, I'm sorry to all of these people, but I don't know who you are. I don't know that man.
Let me go ahead and say this. So I've got walk-on wide receivers in kind of two groups. One that, are all going to kind of be in this playing field, which is going to be, you saying if more or less.
Okay.
And then there's two guys that eventually earned scholarships and just became Nebraska football players. You kind of forget about the walk-on thing. And so we'll start with them, and we'll see if you can get this trivia right.
Okay. And we want you guys to play along.
Play along, everybody.
402-464-5685, Honda of Lincoln Hotline, Starter Heyman text line, and on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Allo Channel 951, the Starter Heyman Jewelers live video stream. We want you guys to play along also. So join in on the fun while I just fail at this.
So the two guys that I think rose above, again, this is from mid 2000s to current time.
Okay.
That rose above kind of the walk-on wide receiver label and got scholarship, and by the end you kind of even forgot that they were walk-ons, is Brandon Riley. Originally a walk-on, and Todd Peterson back in the Callahan days, originally a walk-on as well. Between the two of them, both of them over 1,000 yards in their career. So it is, I mean, they both, were big mainstays on those teams. So let me ask you this: more yards and more touchdowns for one than the other. Was it Todd Peterson or Brandon Riley?
It was, you said Todd Peterson played Callahan?
Yeah, Callahan era with kind of Nate Swift, Maurice Purify, Franz Hardy.
It was Todd Peterson.
It was Todd Peterson. Todd Peterson, who played from 2005 to 2008, had 108 catches in his career. Remember, I'm doing career numbers, not season numbers.
That'd be a very impressive season.
He would be the Blitnikoff Award winner if he finished with this. 108 yards, 108 receptions for 1,602 yards and 13 touchdowns. Todd Peterson, a big weapon.
Yeah, but did he ever have a game-winning catch where it was debated if he stayed in if he was pushed out of bounds or not? Didn't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think he did that. But Brandon Riley did have a good career as well, and we know he went on to play a little bit in the NFL. 70 receptions, 1,275 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So those guys kind of rose above the walk-on label,
including a win against Michigan State,
and helped beat Michigan State. So now we'll move on to more of the guys that kind of stayed in that area, helped out the team enough that you knew them. There were names that you would know if you were following the Huskers, but still kind of walk-on wide receivers. We'll start with Oliver Martin. Oliver Martin is kind of our flag bearer here, so we're going to start with him. We're going to get
Oliver Martin wasn't a walk-on.
He started as a walk-on. He was a walk-on. He transferred from Michigan to Iowa, but he was a walk-on.
So he's a walk-on at Nebraska.
He's a walk-on at Nebraska.
I feel like that shouldn't count, but okay.
What do you think his career numbers were? This is the one that you might struggle with because I'm just throwing it.
He played what? 3 years, 2 years?
3 years at Nebraska.
3 years. Didn't seem like he caught all that many. I'm going to go. I feel like one season was a decent. I'm going to go, 42 catches?
26.
Oh, wow. I am way off. See, I wasn't sure. I was like, like 10 catches a season. Oh, no,
Yeah,
we'll go
yeah.
higher than that. There's more than that. 26?
26 catches.
26. There's no way he averaged like 100 a game, or 100 a season. 26 for 201.
428. How dare you?
Oh my goodness.
underestimate Oliver Martin. 428 yards and 2 touchdowns. Was that more or less than Brody Belt?
Less.
That was more than Brody Belt.
Brody Belt was, he ran a lot. Brody Belt was like Scott Frost loved Brody Belt.
Yeah.
Let me just put it down.
Yeah,
Scott Frost loved Brody Belt.
Brody Belt was the utility guy, but as far as a wide receiver, only 13 catches, 132 yards, and a touchdown from 2020 to 2022.
Brody Belt's a running back. It
Yeah.
shouldn't count.
Well, it's at least a name I wanted to throw in.
Yeah. Shout out to Brody Belt. That's all you wanted.
All right. Oliver Martin, more or less than Levi Falk, who played for Nebraska from 2020 to 2021.
Levi Falk. More than Levi
It
Falk.
is more than Levi Falk. Levi also had some pretty good numbers, though, as a walk-on wide receiver. 31 catches, 345 yards, and a touchdown.
I remember the name. I do not remember much about Levi Falk, though.
Kind of a tall,
I feel
wide receiver.
I feel like we were excited for Levi Falk at one point. I feel like
Yeah.
he might have had a big game, and we were like, well, wait a minute. This
Yeah.
is a good receiver. And then we never heard anything.
He had size. I mean, 345 yards is pretty good for
Yeah.
a walk-on wide receiver throughout his career. That's just 2 years, by
Yeah.
the way. All right. Now, a guy that transferred out but was originally a walk-on as well. So we're still on Oliver Martin's number of 26 receptions for 428 yards. Is that more or less than Cade Warner, who played at Nebraska from 2018
Less.
to 2022?
Cade Warner. Hold on. Okay. Cade Warner did great at Kansas State.
He did.
Now he's with the Bucks right now.
That's right.
Him and Trey Palmer. I would say reunited, but they never played together.
They might not know each other.
They definitely don't know each other, but they're both Huskers
Yes.
at one point. Cade Warner was a target. He was targeted a lot. He also had a decent amount of drops.
Yes. He was a captain at one time.
He was. It doesn't mean that he had a good season. I'm gonna go Cade Warner less than Oliver Martin.
Cade Warner did have less than Oliver Martin. From 2018 to 2020, Cade Warner had 30 receptions, 236 yards, and never scored a touchdown.
He had like 3.
He dropped 3, like 3 of them.
at least.
And then the captain fell out of the rotation.
Yeah.
So could have been
Although,
more.
and then at Kansas State, I feel like he had like 6 in the one in like
He did. He had 5 total.
yeah, in like the
That's
2
a-
seasons he was there.
Yeah. And then let's move on here. So Oliver Martin's still our leader. To Lane Hovey, who played from 2014 to 2015.
I know that name, but I could not tell you a single thing about Tulane Hovey. So I'm just gonna say less.
You might want to go under. Yeah. Lane Hovey, 17 receptions, 227 yards, and a touchdown. All right, let's move on to 2012 to 2013 walk-on wide receiver Sam Birch.
Less.
He also had less.
Yeah.
12 receptions, 147 yards, but 3 touchdowns, which the touchdowns might be more than anybody else
That's pretty impressive.
on this list. That's pretty good.
You're gonna have to give me like a 3-year guy to get more than Oliver Martin, because although he was a walk-on, I feel like he was a scholarship player at Michigan.
I'd have to double check if at Iowa or Michigan he was, but I know at Nebraska.
I mean,
he
if
was
you're
a walk-on.
transferring from D1 to D1 to D1, I feel like you had to be a scholarship player at some point.
I'm not sure.
I don't know
we
how
could
many
look that
walk-ons
up
are going to transfer from Nebraska to Purdue to
That's what I would
Indiana.
do if I was
I'm
a
just
walk-on.
going like down. So
Yeah.
like Nebraska to Purdue to Indiana,
Yeah.
because you went Michigan, Iowa, Nebraska. That's still a step down in terms of how good the teams are. It's I'm right. Shut up. I'm right. So like Nebraska, Purdue, Indiana. Like I don't know how many walk-ons from here are going to be able to do that.
Purdue's probably upset about you putting them in second there.
Well, they are.
they beat Nebraska last year.
That's true. You're right. Okay, hold on. Nebraska, Indiana, Northwestern. There we go.
Northwestern also beat Nebraska last year.
Don't. Okay, but we know. Okay, we know.
We know that they were better.
We know that shouldn't have happened. Everybody Northwestern knows.
Yes, the infamous onside kick that turned the game around. All right, one last name for you. Oliver Martin's 428 yards. Was that better, more or less than another Callahan era guy? Grant Mulkey from 2004 to 2005 was one of the wide receivers for that unit, one of the bigger
Less.
name wide receivers. It is less. You end up with the victory, because that is the last question there.
Victory!
Grant Mulkey had 45 receptions, 515 yards, and 2 touchdowns before unfortunately being kicked off the team. I think he got in a kerfuffle with Richie Incognito at one point in time. Even.
Wow, you got in a fight with Richie Incognito? I feel like that's everybody on that team.
Yeah. So
if you told me anybody from any of those teams with Richie got in a fight with him, not surprised.
Yeah, that's what you would expect. How would you be a teammate with
Not
Richie
surprised at all. If you didn't get in a fight with him, you weren't trying. Yeah, no, Oliver Martin was definitely a scholarship receiver for Michigan. He was the 47th best wide receiver, maybe just the 47th best recruit as a prospect. Number 7 wide receiver in the country, number 1 in Iowa. He was a 4-star coming out of high school, so he definitely had a scholarship. So
he's kind of cheating on our walk-on receiver.
100% cheating.
Well, good thing Grant Mulkey came there at the end of the But our list of wonderful walk-on wide receivers again goes with Oliver Martin, Brody Belt, Levi Falk, Cade Warner, Lane Hovey, Sam Birch, Grant Mulkey, Brandon Riley, and Todd Peterson. Hopefully, when we do this list 5 years from now, we can include a Ty Hahn, and Alex Bullock, and Elliott Brown, Baron Miles Jr., or any of the other walk-on wide receivers that may step up. And again, the goal here, the biggest goal would be to be a Brandon Riley, to be a Todd Peterson, to make us forget that you were a walk-on at all to begin with, would be very cool.
Give me Ty Hahn.
Ty Hahn?
Give me Ty
Hahn. Your pick?
Yeah. He was great in high school. The dude did everything. Was it Johnson Brock? I think. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not sure about that.
I know it's Johnson something. I'm pretty sure it's Johnson
Brock sounds correct.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Text line, let me know if I'm wrong. But he did like everything for that school, and I was excited when he decided to walk on in Nebraska. I don't know about anybody else, but I hope that he's able to get into those ranks of one of the better walk-on receivers.
He's getting some recognition so far. Alex Bullock, another guy. So I think among the walk-on receivers that we've mentioned so far, I think Ty Hahn and Alex Bullock probably, based on what we're hearing from the coaching staff, are going to have a chance to be in the mix there. 4250 says Tim Marlowe, no doubt. Tim Marlowe was a scholarship player. I would say I'm not sure why you think he wasn't, but I am sure why you think that he might not have been.
I understand.
I get where you're coming from, but Tim Marlowe actually did get a scholarship.
Just messed up.
Somebody, oh, that's the same. I was going to say somebody else also saying I'm throwing bones with Marlowe, biggest heart on the team. Again, a scholarship player, but I again understand why you might think he might not have.
Yeah, we did.
Aaron says Todd Peterson had a big touchdown catch to help beat Clemson in the Gator Bowl. That is correct. Todd
yeah,
Peterson.
But was it the winning touchdown? Was it the winning catch? Don't think so.
You really like that Brandon Riley out of bounds.
Yeah, because he was definitely out of bounds, and that shouldn't have counted. But right. It did, and we're okay with it. At the time, I was like, oh, yeah, he was definitely shoved out. And then the more you watch it, you're like, you know what? They got that wrong. But I'm not mad.